I'm Hyperfreeze Games. Welcome to another entry in my Blockbench series. In this entry, I wanted to tackle completing the Digimon trio with the addition of GREYMON. So let's get started. I randomly chose, and I don't know why, to start with the jaw of his little, or rather huge head, and just created a cube or cuboid and started kind of modeling the rough shape of it. Once I was happy with that, I continued with modeling the rest of the head and just started out with a cuboid again and slowly but steadily molded it into this dinosaur head shape until I was quite happy with the overall look of it so far. Since the jaw didn't really connect to the head shape I had now, I just extended everything out a bit. With the general head shape in place so far, I started decorating it and started with this cuboid which I formed into his left horn. When this turned out just right, I continued in the same manner with his front-facing horn and then just duplicated the left horn to the right side of his head. In addition to that, I then modeled the spikes GREYMON has at the back of his head. I then started adding his neck, which I formed out of this first 5-sided cylinder and then turned it into a 6-sided one just to give it a more organic look. But I thought he's still missing his teeth, so I went ahead and added the teeth to his lower jaw and then just arranged everything until it looked right and just duplicated and mirrored it onto the upper side of his mouth. At this point, I already thought the head looked really cool, so I continued on with modeling the body by extending the neck downwards. I then created his upper arm first, which I again took just a cuboid, subdivided it a few times, and kind of made this muscly form out of it. And then I just duplicated that and just changed some things around to make his lower arm. I then continued on with the hand, just started out with a cuboid again as always and just formed it into this organic shape and then added his 3 claws. And once I was happy with the general shape of the claws, I just moved them around a bunch to make the hand look cool and organic. Following the saying of work smart not hard, I just duplicated the arm and made a leg out of it. After changing some things to make it look more like a leg, I then started to add the foot. For the feet, I tried a different approach where I would just put down a plane and subdivided it a bunch of times and then just gave it the general form of the claws and the foot itself, and then just extruded this plane upwards and kind of made the foot form that way. The result is not completely to my satisfaction, but I just wanted to try out this different technique and it looks good enough in my opinion. While posing the leg more naturally, I discovered that the foot looked to be open, and I thought something went wrong with the plane, so I just went ahead and manually closed all the gaps. Later I realized that it was just the direction of the plane that was the wrong way around, so I could have just changed the orientation of that. Looking at the result of that, I realized the foot is a bit too small, so I just scaled everything a bit to make it match the general GREYMON dimensions a bit better. I then posed the arm as well and scaled GREYMON down a bit just to match Agumon's scale a bit better. Using the same pixel density as with Agumon and Koromon, I then started to paint the model, starting with his hardened skin on the top, which is not a shell by the way, it's actually skin that has hardened, according to the wiki. Then something went wrong with the mirror painting, which I don't know what it was, but I ended up just painting both eyes and trying to make them look as similar as possible. After that, I started giving his mouth texture these gradients and also the teeth and the claws, which made it pop just a bit better in my opinion, which was really fitting for these areas. And then, of course, same with the other models, I gave the whole skin a bit of variation. I then painted his chest muscles, which turned out really cool in my opinion, so I really found a cool technique, which I should have used with Agumon, but I don't even know if there were enough pixels for that. And then I gave him his stripes, which also there would have been better techniques to implement them to make them more uniform, but I think how it turned out is acceptable for this project. It looks cool, so I just kept them. After the paint job was finished, I duplicated the left leg and the left arm to the right and just reposed them to a slightly different pose to make it look more natural and less robotic. I then went back to modeling because he was still missing his tail, which I saved for last. Because for the tail to animate it in a organic, natural way, I wanted to implement my dual joint technique I talked about in my last video. So I made the different tail elements out of a shape that was similar to the body shape, like this six-sided cylinder, and offset the pivot points of the bones accordingly to make it bend naturally without showing gaps. As a final touch for the tail, I also gave it a texture and added these skin tone variations as with the rest of the model. Since this would be the final episode of this Digimon series, with my biggest model yet for this Blockbench series, I wanted to do something special, so I wanted to actually animate the model and not just have this statue of it. So I first animated the tail to wiggle up and down in this natural manner using my dual joint technique, and then added like chest and arm movements to make this breathing animation, this idle animation sort of thing. It was a bit difficult to keep the legs flat on the ground, so I have to figure out a better way to do animations like this, yeah, in a future episode maybe. I also added some rotation to the head and the jaw, and the final animation, like his little idle animation, looked really cool. So for the finishing touch, I just brought his two little buddies back into the picture, added this like shine or spotlight effect, and yeah, let's take a look at the final animation. At first I was rather nervous doing this episode because GREYMON in my head was this huge undertaking and just this different beast than the Koromon or the Agumon model. But I think he turned out really cool. I'm really happy with what I accomplished with it. And it really goes to show to just trust the process, as I always like to say. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this bit longer episode this time, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!